With spooky season creeping just around the corner, we thought it'd be best to have our wands at the ready. Let's start by making some cane. Sadly, we can't turn glass into candy, but this cane allows us to put some patterns or design into our glass. After warming up all the glass we'll be using, I've got a black and white rod that I'll stick onto opposite sides of a clear rod. Now normally for what I'll call a twisty cane, you'll want to focus on getting an even amount of color placed. This will help keep the final pattern of the cane relatively the same, with no wonky spots, whenever we decide to stretch and pull it and twist it. But instead of this being a perfect cane pull, we're going to actually turn this into the handle of our wand. And I like how a wonky cane looks, because it seems like you've captured some magic. Focus the flame more on the color than the clear. If the clear gets too hot, gravity's going to take over and pull it down and slump it. If that happens, take it out of the flame, let it cool down a little, realign it, and then start painting that color back on. Now that we've got the white on the other side, I'm going to heat up the end so we can punty up to it so that there's another handle. That way we can have a little bit more control over the glass and condense it down the way we need to. And sometimes glass likes to do what it wants to whenever you're melting it, and all you can do is kind of guide it along into the shape that you want it to be. The shape we're needing for the cane today is a cylinder. If you melt and squish it too much into a puck, your handles might pull off before you're able to actually stretch the glass and twist it the way you need to. I let it melt a little too far and it became that puck. The trick here to get it back to that cylinder and not losing your handles in the meantime is focusing that flame into the middle of the puck and letting that get as hot as it possibly can, and slow and steady stretching it back into that cylinder shape. Now that we have that cylinder shape, hold it at sort of a diagonal so that all of the flame can heat it up at once, making sure to hit all sides of the glass. Now that it has an even heat, we'll begin to pull, stretch, and twist it. Normally for twisty cane, you'd stretch it as far as your arms could go, but I'm keeping it relatively small. Try and twist it as much as you can, like you're wrapping a piece of taffy. If you see a thicker or thinner spot in the cane, you can put the thicker spot back in the flame to hopefully twist it a little bit more, or you could even blow on the thinner spot to cool it off so it doesn't twist as much. At this point you could be done and have yourself some nice cane to use on some other glass pieces. But since this is going to be the handle of our wand, I'm actually going to put it back in the flame to melt it all together to have a smooth finish. Moving on to some of the accents of the piece, making some Marias, or what I'll call UFOs for the spooky season. Basically heat up a spot, pull it out of the flame and let it cool off just for a second, and then push it together and it will create a little saucer. Feel free to make as many as you want to. I just made a couple. And if you want to make bigger ones, gather up a little bit of glass by heating that spot up for just a second longer and pushing the rods in while it's still in the flame. Then take it out and then squish that big glob together. It's always fun to be able to squish the glass like slime. For the end cap or pummel, I went with a clear marble so that I could gaze into it to see the future. Ooh, I see a piece of candy that lies ahead. I snuck some more UFOs in, and I went for a broken wand sort of look. Just gotta make sure the ends are clean and tapered correctly, and this wand is ready for the annealer. Hopefully too many spells won't backfire when casting with this.
Using a 2mm solid rod, we'll put the flame to one end and use gravity to keep slumping the glass on itself to gather up a little ball that we'll use as the pummel for our next wand. Instead of starting with the color, we're going to go ahead and make our wand shape and add the color onto the surface. With the pummel being so thick, it's necessary to keep it warm by either letting it rest in the annealer for a little bit every so often, or using the little further away cooler part of the flame, or even using a technique called an annealing flame. Turning up the propane will change the flame and make it easier to get an even warmth all around the ball. Sadly, I let it get too cold, and the shock of being put back in the heat cracked our ball. But a lot of glass blowing is knowing how to fix mistakes or accidents, and by slowly reintroducing the ball back to the heat, we can melt it all back together. Now with the use of frit, or crushed up colored glass, and colored rods, stretched thin we'll add our color. After rolling around in the frit, we'll paint our color on. Going for a natural, woodsy theme, we'll make sure everything is melted together, and I wonder if we'll be able to grow some vines with it. Ooh, a piece of candy!
Leave a like if you found this video helpful. Follow if you want to figure out how to set up your own hot shop. And if you need some project ideas. I can't wait to see your studio and your art grow together.